Welcome back. In this lecture, we will be implementing user authentication and we will cover these two things in this lecture. First, we will create user registration, login endpoints and other auth related endpoints. And secondly, we will secure all of our API endpoints by using the middleware that we created earlier. Okay. So we will create at least these 4 API endpoints in this lecture. First one would be the login. Then we will create for the registration. So whenever you will log in, our system, our backend will generate two types of token. First one would be the access token and second one would be the refresh token. And whenever we will generate the tokens, we will immediately save them in the token table or model as well. So the reason of saving these tokens in the database is that we will have the ability to revoke the tokens whenever we want to. For example, in some case, if your tokens are compromised in some way, for some reason, there should be a way for someone to revoke the access token from the database. So those tokens will work only until these are inside the tokens table. Once we delete those tokens from the token table, then any future request along with that token will not work. We will not authorize any person that is providing an old token that doesn't exist in our database. So we will double check. We will check if token is valid. Also, we will check that if token was registered in our database or not. So that's why we will be saving both of these tokens in our database. And then we will have a refresh token endpoint. So when we generate an access token, there is a very limited time period of expiry for that token. That token can be expired after the specified time that we have set. Normally we expire it after 1 hour. You can change it to whatever time you prefer. But when the token is expired, on the client side, on the front end or on the Angular side, normally when the token is expired, then any future requests will not work to the backend from the client side. So user may have to sign in again to get a new token, but that is a hassle. And to avoid user from that hassle, we are using the refresh token, because when users sign in, the client side, the front end will have both tokens in their local storage. They will have the access token and the refresh token. As soon as the access token is expired on the front end side, then client or front end will immediately send another request to this refresh token endpoint along with the refresh token that we provided them during sign-in. So we will verify that refresh token in our database and we will check if it is valid or not. Once we found that this refresh token is valid, then we will regenerate a new access token and we will send it back to the user. And on the front end, user will use that token and update its session in the local storage. And finally, we will have the logout endpoint. So whenever user want to log out from their CMS or admin panel, then they will hit this endpoint and our backend will immediately destroy all of the tokens from our database. In this way, if someone tries to access any secure, any protected route by using the old token, we will never accept that because those tokens are already deleted from our database. All right. And finally, forgot password will also need to be implemented, but that would be done in the future upcoming lectures, because we still have to implement the email notifications as well. Like when user register, we need to send the email notifications. So forgot password would also need the email notifications, email messages. So we will dedicate a separate lecture for that, where we will be integrating a third-party email provider, and then we will use that and send emails whenever we need. All right, so let's begin. So now in the routes folder, I will create another file with the name auth.routes.ts. I will create a constant with the name router is equal to new router. Make sure to import the router from the express and export that router as the default. Okay. First of all, I will create a constant with the name router and I will call the function router, and make sure to import the router function from the express package, and then we will export the router as default. Before adding any further line of code, we have to register this auth.routes. So that is the first thing that we need to do. So on the index.ts, that is our entry file, here we will add another line here to register the base API path for the authentication. So app use /API/auth, and here we will pass the router that we created. So, but before that, we need to import that auth routes. So we will duplicate this line and fix the path auth.routes, and let's give it the correct name, auth routes. Okay. So this is how we have registered our auth router, and now within that router we will be adding all of our child routes, endpoints. So first endpoint would be for the registration. We will implement the login after that. Okay. So router dot post, and then use the registration, a register, and then we need to pass it a controller function. We will pass it after that, and then we need to register the login endpoint, and then we will add the refresh token, and finally we need to register the logout endpoint, router dot post slash logout. Save it. Okay. Now all of these endpoints are available under this base path API /auth. Okay. Now it's time to define all of the controllers and their related functions, and then we will register them one by one in these routes. Okay. So go to the controllers. Let's create a new file with the name auth.controller.ts, and now I will export a constant with the name register is equal to, we will be assigning the async function to it that will be getting these two interfaces, and make sure to import these interfaces from the express like this. Same for the response as well. All right. So for now, in order to register, we need an email address and a password. So the email would be our username. We will use the email as the username. So first of all, we need to create the Zord schema to validate our API request parameters, request body parameters. So let's create a constant schema is equal to Zord or Z. Make sure to import Z from the Zord and call the object function on it, and then we will pass it an object with the properties email of type string, and it should be an email. So this will automatically implement the validation for the email. If it is not a valid email, then it will fail the validation for us. And then we will have another field password with the type string, and its minimum length should be 6. Okay. And also we want to specify a maximum length as well. Further, I want to enforce a complex password for the sake of the security. So this is the meaning of this chain. It should have the minimum 6 characters, at least one uppercase letter and one lowercase letter and one number. Okay, so this is a regular expression. You can spend time to understand it, but this is what it means. Okay, so after that, let's safely parse it to get the validation result. So I will use a constant parsed data is equal to schema.saveParse and pass it the request.body. Now we will use the if condition, if parsed data, let me fix this spelling A, if parsed data dot success is false, then we will immediately terminate the process and by using the return statement, and then we will send back the response, the error object that will contain all of the reasons in it, and we will send the status of 400. Now if everything is correct, then we can proceed to register that user. So very first thing is that we have to double check if this email is unique or not. So for example, if an email is already registered and you are trying to register another account with the same email, then we should stop it by returning an error message. So for that, we have to create a service function with the name getUserByEmail. But so far we don't have any user service. So let's create that. Go to the services folder, and here I will generate a file user.service.ts, and now export constant getUserByEmail. Okay. And now we will be expecting an email from this function of type string. And now I will return the response of user model dot find one function. Okay. And in the find one function, we will be passing an object, and within that object, we will pass the where property that will contain all of the conditions. For now, we need only one condition, that email should be equal to the email. Okay, that's it. Now this function will give us the user model based on this condition. Okay, now in the auth controller, I will create a constant existing user is equal to await get user by email. So if you are using VS Code, you may see this suggestion. You just click on that. It will automatically add that import statement to import this function for us. Okay, now let's pass it the email. Actually, let me get all of the data from the parsed data.data property in simple variables like this. Const email password is equal to parsed data.data. Okay, now in this function, I just passed the email. It will give me the existing user. Now I will check if there is an existing user, then I will immediately terminate the process by using the return statement, and I will send back the status 400 to our request client, and we will also send an object as the JSON along with the message properties that would say that user already exists. And if there is no user with that email already, then we will create that user. But in order to create that or register that user, we have to add another function that would be export const add user. And now that function would be expecting two parameters. First one would be the email and second one would be the password. Okay, in this function, I will first of all create a constant with the name user is equal to new user model. Okay, so now I will set the email password to this user model, and then I will return the response of the user.save function that will insert the user in the database and will return the created user back, and then we will return it from this function to where this function was called. Okay, so after this we will create the current user. So far, if you go to the user model, we did not create any property to track the status of the current user. Like if user has activated their account by going to the email they will receive after the registration. So we did not create that field yet, but we will definitely add that field, but we will add that when we will work on the email verification feature. In this lecture, we will not be working on the email verification, but we will come to that point very soon in the upcoming lectures. Okay, so for now, we will just want to keep it simple. So we can just proceed here. We will use the constant and give it name user is equal to await and call the function add user. Press enter. It will automatically import the add user function that we created from the user.service. Now in this function, we need to pass the email and password like this. Okay, save it. And finally, we have to send this user back to the client as the response of this request. So let's do that. Return response.status. We will use the 201 status, and 201 mean we have successfully created something, a resource. So call the JSON function and pass it the user object, a user model that we just created. All right, now it's time to test this endpoint. So, but before that, we have to register this controller in the auth.routes. So in this, after the first parameter of the register endpoint, I will provide the register controller, but we still have to fix the name of this controller function because we have been using the suffix controller. Okay, so register controller, similarly like we are doing here, add category controller. So similarly we will do register controller. Save it, and let's import this register controller here and add it here. Okay, now it has been registered. I got an error here. TypeScript is now throwing this error that it has add user implicitly has type any because it does not have a type annotation and is referenced directly or indirectly in its own initializer. So we have to define a return type as well. Here I will say that it is going to return the user model. Okay, it is going to return the promise along with the user model. Okay, with that you will not see any error here. Similarly, all of the errors are gone here as well. Now everything is perfect and ready to be tested. So go to the Postman, and here I will open a new tab. Let's add a new endpoint with the base path API/auth/register, and make sure to pick the post method. And for now, I will not add anything in the body section. I will just hit the send button just to verify that my validation is working correctly. So you can see I got a Zod error object that has the total 2 number of issues. One for the email, second for the password. Both are complaining about the missing data or missing fields. So let's provide them something. So here I will provide the email first. Make sure to select the JSON here to have full JSON support while you're typing like this. And now I will pass it a number. So let's see what it says about that. It is saying that expected string but received the number. So let's convert it to the string and hit the send button. Now I'm getting a different kind of error that is saying that invalid email. Now I will provide a valid email, abc@gmail.com. Hit the send button. Now there is only one issue. That is the password is required. Now let's provide a password, and here I will give it a number. Now it is saying that we were expecting a string, but we sent it a number. So let's convert it to the number. I will use the one character only just to see how the verification is working or validation is working. So now we have total 2 errors. First error is that string must contain at least 6 characters. And second error is saying that we have regular expression error. By the way, this is not user friendly. This is very easy to understand what kind of error it is. We clearly know that what we have to do to fix this error. We know that we have to provide at least 6 characters, then this error will go away. But here it is just saying that it is the regex and code is invalid string and message is invalid, but we don't know what exactly the system is expecting from us. So for that, we have to go back to our controller and we can pass the custom message as well. So here I will add a comma, and now you can pass an object, and this object will have a property message, and here you can pass a customized message. So it is very clearly saying that password must contain at least 1 uppercase letter and 1 lowercase letter and 1 number. Okay, save it. Now if I try that again, you will see that this time we will have a very meaningful and user friendly message. It will very clearly convey what's wrong with your password. Now let's fix the first issue by providing it complete number of characters A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. So these are more than 6 characters. Okay, let's try that. Now we have only one issue left, that is about this regex. So according to this, password must contain at least 1 uppercase letter. So let me convert D character to the uppercase like this and hit the send button. Still issue is there because we are still missing 1 number in this number. So let's add a number anywhere in this word and send it. All right, now all of the errors are gone, but I think the server has been crashed. So let's see what's wrong here. Oh, okay. So it is saying that user cannot be null. So that's mean we need another parameter from the request.body. So we have to update the Zod to expect another parameter or expect another field from the request.body. So let's add that. Name should be z.string and it should have minimum of 3 characters and maximum of 100 characters. Okay. Now let's hit the send button. Actually the server was crashed. We have to, I guess. Okay, the server is restarted. Now hit the send button. Now we have only one error about the name. We did not provide it yet. So let's provide the name field and pass it very little number of characters, only 1, and it will definitely complain about that. It is saying that string must contain at least 3 characters. So let's add ABC send. Okay, now there is no name error, but there is something else. Okay, so it will obviously still not work because we did not use this name property. So let's proceed and extract the name from the data property or from the request.body, and now we will pass the name to the add user function like this, and open the add user and update and add a third parameter name of type string. And now here we will add another statement to add the name property in that user. Save it and wait for the server to start, and now hit the send button again. This time there was no error and we successfully got a user object back from the response. That's mean that indicates that our user has been created. But another thing is that we should never send the password back. So sending user password back to the client, it is not a good idea. So we have to modify it in a way that we could remove the password from the response. So go to the category.controller. So go to the auth.controller, and before sending the user to the client back in the response, we will delete the user.password. So in this way, it will remove that property from this object. And then we will send the user, and at that stage, there will not be any password property. So let's try it again, but this time we will get the error that user already exists with that email. So I will make a change in that email, use 1. Actually, it did not work because this is a user model. This is an instance of a class. This is not a pure object. Okay, so if we delete the password, it will not work in like we were expecting, because this is a class. We cannot delete any property of the class. So before doing anything like that, we have to convert the response into the plain JavaScript object. Okay, so for that, I will have to change from constant to let, so that we could replace the value of user, and then I will call the toJSON function on it. So in this way, all of the functions, everything would be removed. So this would not be an instance anymore, and this would be a purely a JSON object. Now, as this is a pure JSON object, so now we are free to remove the user password from it. Okay, now let's try it once more. This time I will use ABC2, a different email, and this time you will notice that the password has been removed. Okay, great. So after creating the user, or after the registration is completed, we have to add another feature that I will add in our to-do list. So here I will add to do send email verification. So at this stage in the future lecture, we will add a new field in the user model that will be the status field. By default, the status field would be the pending or pending verification, whatever we will decide at that time, and an email would be sent to the email. User will click on that email, and that email would hit another endpoint in our backend server. And if everything is good, then we will activate the account of that user by changing the status from pending to active. Okay, that would be done in the next lectures. All right, now next is that we have to implement the login endpoint. So go to the auth controller, and let's register another endpoint. Export constant login controller is equal to the async function that with 2 parameters in it. And now I need to create another function in the login service that would be export constant get user by email. Okay, and here I will use async. Okay, now in the login controller, we will expect 2 parameters or 2 fields from the request.body. So for that, I will again define my schema, sort schema, by defining a constant schema, and that would be equal to z.object function, and that function will expect an object. That object will have 2 properties that would be required. Email would be the string of type email, and the password would be the string that would have length of minimum 6 and maximum length should be 100. Okay, great. After that, I will get the parsed data by using schema.saveParse, and we will pass the request.body to that function. And after that, we will check the status of this validation by checking if the success property is true. So if the parsed data.success is not true, then we will terminate the process by using the return, and we will send back all of the errors or reasons of the failure for this validation, and we will send a status of 400. But if everything is correct, then we will extract all of the data from the parsed data, email and password, and then we will get the user by using get user by email function that was already created in our service. So we passed it an email and it gave us a user back. So first of all, if user was not found, then we can terminate the process by using the return statement. We have used the if condition. If user not found, then terminate the process and send back an error message that user not found along with the 400 status. But if everything is fine, user was found, then we have to check another thing. That thing is that we have to check if password is valid or not. Okay, so we will just use if condition user dot password is not equal to the password. So if password is not equal to the password, then that's mean, so this is basically the password that is coming from the login form from the front end, and this is the password that was saved in the database. So if both of these passwords are not equal, then that's mean user is trying to access with incorrect password, and in that case we don't want to let them sign in. So I will simply return response.status and 400.json, and here I will pass a message invalid password. We used the return statement again to terminate all of the process below this line, and if password was correct, then we will generate a token and then we will send the token back to the client as the response of this HTTP request. But before that, I mentioned earlier that so far currently we are saving the passwords in a way that is not recommended. So let me reload it. So you can see that passwords are clearly visible in the database. So it is not a good practice for security reasons that we should never show the password clearly in the database. Because for example, if someone somehow get access to our database, they will see the password of someone, and many people use the same password for their multiple accounts. They may hack other accounts of that user as well. So we should never display passwords in this way. So mostly we encrypt the password whenever we register, and when user is trying to sign in, we will decrypt that password and compare it with the password that user has provided from the input from the front end. Okay, so let's do that. So first of all, we have to encrypt the password. Okay, so I'm going to delete all of the users. So I will basically select everything and I will select the truncate to delete every data. I will disable the foreign key check so that it don't complain about the child data. Okay, now everything is deleted from this database. It is totally empty. Now we have to go back to the registration controller, and here, before sending the password to the database, we will encrypt that password by using the JWT. Okay, so here I will change the constant to let so that we could replace the value of the password. Okay, now we need to encrypt this password. For that, we will go to the auth.util function, and here I will create another function that will look like the generate token. Let's duplicate that. I will name it encrypt password, and we will be getting the password from the parameter that would be of type string, and password would be our payload. I will just remove this line. We don't need it anymore, and let's pass it here. So this is our payload now. We use the secret key and we don't want to expire it ever. So I will just remove the options section. Now I will name it encrypted password. Okay, and let's return it back. Go to the auth.controller and let's import this function encrypt password. Make sure to import this function from the auth.util file, and now we will pass it the password that we want to encrypt like this. Okay, now this is not the original password, this is the encrypted, so we will just pass it here as like we were doing earlier. Nothing else to change, and save it. Now let's create a user, and this time you will see we will have an encrypted password in the database. Go to the postman, and here I will add this password AXYXYZ ABC. Send it. Okay, the user has been created. Now let's look at the password that was created. Go to the table plus and reload the user table. In the user table, now you can see we passed this password that you can see in the postman. We passed this 1XYZABC, but actually it stored an encrypted password in the database, so nobody can read it. Now we have to decode this password to verify if it is correct or not. So now I will create a constant db password is equal to. So in the auth.util function, we have the verify token. So we will use that. We will pass the token and it will check if it is valid or not. Okay, let's just use this function, copy it and paste it here. Make sure to import it from auth.util like this, and now pass it the encrypted password that was stored in the database. And now we are also getting this TypeScript error that it is saying the value of password can be string or undefined, and that is not allowed. We cannot assign that undefined to the parameter of type string. So we know that there is definitely a password, that it would never be empty. So I will just add exclamatory sign like this. In this way we are saying that it will never be empty or undefined. Okay, now we have the db password in readable format, so I will use it. Okay, save it. So for example, earlier there was an encrypted password like this, something like that, and the password that we got from the user input from the front end, that was something like that, abc xyz whatever, and we were trying to compare it with that. In this way it would never pass the condition, but after decrypting the password we will then compare, and this is how it will look like. So this password decrypted to this, and now it will definitely pass the if condition. Now we need to generate the access token and the refresh token, but before doing that we have to go to the token model and we have to update this column. Okay, because right now we are expecting only two types of tokens, activation and reset, but we need other types of tokens as well, like access and refresh, like that. Okay, and here we have to update this as well, like this. Great. Now go to the auth.controller and we have to create another service for the token in the services folder. So for that, type token.service.ts, and here I will create a constant add token. Actually we have to export it as well, export constant add token, and it would be expecting an async function, and that async function will expect some parameters, token of type string and type, and we will be allowing only these types: activation, reset, access and refresh. And then we want the user ID, because if you look at the database table, in the token table we have the token, type, user ID. These are the three fields that we must need to get. And now in this function I will create a constant new, I will create a constant token is equal to new token. Make sure to import this token from the token model, and now we have created an instance of this token model, but now we are conflicting with the parameter token name. So to avoid that we will give it a different name. I will set the name token instance, and now we will set all of these fields in this instance, and finally we will return the response of the save function on this instance. Okay, that will immediately insert a token for us. Now let's go to the auth.controller, and we need to create an access token first. Constant access token and is equal to, we will use the generate token function that we earlier created in the auth.util file, and we have to pass it the user.id. We have to use the get method, okay, like this, and it will give us the ID. If we have passed it to the generate token function, then it will immediately create the token by using that ID as the payload. Okay, now we will create a refresh token in the same way, but for the refresh token the expiry should be longer than the access token. So for that I will define another parameter, expires in, and the default value would be 1 hour. So if you don't provide any value, by default it will use this one, but if you specify any value, then that provided value would be preferred. Okay, now I am using that expires in variable or parameter, so it is more dynamic than before. Okay, now go back. So in the second parameter I will pass 7 days. So refresh token normally has the longest life. It will be expired after 7 days. You can increase the time period as to 30 days as well. It's totally up to you. So now as our both of the tokens are created, we have to insert them in the token table. For that, we will call the add token function that we just created in the token service. Make sure to import this function from the token service. And now I will call it and pass it the refresh token first. And here I will pass the second argument, that would be the type. So you can see it is giving me the suggestions that which types are allowed. It is giving us this suggestion because we have specified only these strings in the function definition. So this is the refresh token. I will pick the refresh, and here I need to pass the user ID in this way. Okay. So we are using the get function to get the ID from the user model, and we must have to add the await keyword to resolve the promise. Similarly, we have to save the access token in the same way, but this time we are passing the access token, and the type is access and user ID is the same. Now finally, we need to prepare a session, and we will send it back to the user, and user will then save that session in the local storage. Create and send session to client. Okay, now I have created a constant with the name session is equal to an object, and that object will have two properties, access token, refresh token, and also a third property with the property name user and user to JSON. Okay, and now we have this this session object that we can send back to the client as the response. By the way, we should never be sending the password even if user is signed in. Let me remove this comment as well. We don't need it anymore. Okay. So now we will use a delete keyword to remove the password from the user object. And now I will send the response to the client along with that session and 200 status. All right. Now it's time to test it. So in the users, this table, we have this password, but we have to type this password to sign in successfully. So I'm going to duplicate this tab, and here I will use the different endpoint. We did not register the login controller yet in our auth.route. So let's do that. I will pass the login controller as the second argument, and make sure to import this controller from the auth.controller. Now it's time to test it. The path is /login after the base path. So here I will replace the register with the login, and in the body we have to pass email and password. First of all, I will not provide anything. Keep it empty just to verify that Zod is working correctly. We have the error about the email and the password. Let's provide email but not the password and send it again. I got the JSON error because we left the comma. Okay, now it is giving us the error of the password, and now I have added the password, but I want to provide incorrect password. Okay, so here at the end I will add something this and send it. Okay, now I'm getting the error from the database that is saying that invalid password. So this is basically hitting the database, getting the user and comparing the password and saying the password is not valid. Now I'm going to remove the invalid characters from it, and let's see if it works. All right, now as server, it looks like server has been crashed. So go back to the backend, go to the terminal and see what happened there. So we are getting the error data truncated for the column type at row 1. So we are getting this error that data truncated for column type. So there is some problem with the type column. So if you go back to the tokens table in your database, you will notice that we still have only 2 enums available to use, activation and reset, but we added 2 more. So we must have to update our database in order to make this work. Otherwise it will not work and it will be failing like this. So we made these changes, but we never synced our database. So for that, let's go to the database folder and open the index.ts. We will enable the force sync temporarily and save it. It will immediately made those new changes that we added, and it will add 2 additional enums in this type table structure. reload it, and you can see this time we have all of the types that we want to allow. Great. Now we will disable it again, and we know that all of our data has been wiped out, so we have to register again. So go to the postman and go to the register endpoint, hit that button again, and we have been registered, and reload the users table. We got it back. Now go to the postman and hit the login endpoint once more, and this time nothing was crashed, and we got the entire object along with the access token, refresh token, and the user object without the password field in it. And if you go to the database and reload the tokens table, go to the data section and reload it, you will find that we have 2 tokens added in this database table with type refresh and access, and with the same user ID. So same user has created both of these tokens. Before ending this endpoint, there is another thing that we have to check and verify. So for example, if user was logged in, but user tried to log in again somehow, then we should delete all of the existing tokens from the database. Otherwise, it will keep adding multiple tokens of the same type. That is not what we want. So to fix that, I will have to create another function in the token service, and we will name it export constant with the name delete tokens, and we will expect one argument or parameter from this function that would be user ID. We will give it user ID, and it will wipe out all of the tokens from this for this user. Okay, so the function is still same. Just use the token model and call the destroy function on it, and then pass it an object with the where property, and where property will have all of the where conditions. For now we need only one condition, user ID. Okay, save it, copy the function name, go back to the auth.controller, and here before inserting the token we want to delete all of the old tokens. Okay, so I will use the await function, call the delete tokens function. Make sure to import the delete token function from the token.service, and now pass it the user ID in this way. Save it. Now let's try to sign in again, and I will show you in the database, and look at the created at time. It was created at 17:30:52, and if I send this request again, you will notice that there would not be additional refresh access token, but it will delete these and it will add new ones with the different created at date time. Okay, do that again, and now remember this time 17:30:52, reload it, and you can see the time has been changed. That means the old tokens were deleted and new ones were added. Okay, great. Now let's move on to the refresh token endpoint. So in case if the token was expired, we want to be able to refresh that token. So in the controller, I'm going to define another controller function, export constant refresh token controller, that will again have an async function with the 2 parameters, request and response, and we will one parameter from the body, that would be the access token. Okay, so let's create a constant schema is equal to z.object and pass it an empty object, and we want to expect refresh token of type string. And now I will create a parsed data variable or constant, and we will safely parse it. We will safely parse the request.body, and now we will check with the if condition. If it was parsed successfully, then it's fine. Otherwise we will terminate the request, and we will send back all of the reasons for the failure along with the 400 error status, and then we will extract the refresh token from the parsed data, and then we will first verify from the database if this token is valid or not. Okay, so for that we need to define another function in the token service. So go to the token service and define it, export constant get token. Okay, now we will use the find one function on the token model. Call that function, pass it an object with the where condition token is equal to token. Okay, we have passed it the token that we got from the parameter. Close it, and Now I will create a constant existing db refresh token is equal to await, and we will call the get token function. Make sure to import this function from the token.service and call it and pass it the refresh token that we got from the request body. And now we will check if there was no token in the database, then we will not allow user to refresh this token, and we will say that invalid token, or you can say expired, whatever. We are also sending the 400 status, and also we are terminating the remaining process immediately here, and any lines below this line would never work. Now there is another thing that we need to check. So if database is not valid, or if it is valid but the db refresh token dot get type was not equal to refresh, because we want to expect only refresh type of token. If token type is not refresh, then we will still not accept this, and we will throw error about the invalid token. Okay, and then if everything is correct, then we will get the user id from the refresh token. You know that in every token we are saving the user id, so we saved it in the user id constant. And now we need to generate a new access token. So I will create a constant access token, and then we will call the function generate token that we already have imported from the token auth.util function file. And now we will pass it the user id that we want to use as the payload. Now we are again getting same kind of error that we cannot pass the type of number or undefined. It has to be of type number, it cannot be undefined, but we know that it will never be undefined, so we will just provide not or exclamatory sign to it, and it will fix that error. Okay, after that we also want to generate the refresh token as well, because we are going to delete every token from the database. And for that I will again call the delete tokens function that we defined in the token.service, and we passed it the user id, and we used the await to resolve the promise. Once all of the tokens are deleted, we will again save both of the tokens in our database. We are first saving the refresh token by using the await add token function, call it and pass it 3 parameters. First one would be the new refresh token, and second parameter would be the type, that which kind of token we want to generate, and third one would be the user id. Same thing for the access token. We will, let me add the comment here as well, save access token, and we are passing access token, type access, and the user id. I want to send both of these tokens back to the user. For that I will use return statement, and then I will use the response.status 200, and then I will call the JSON function. Then we will pass an object in the JSON function, and the properties would be the access token and the refresh token. So in the response, both of these tokens would be provided. Save it. Now let's test it. So go to the Postman, and we already are logged in. Actually, let me log in once again just to make sure we have the fresh tokens, and I want to refresh my token. So I will just copy this, but before trying that, I did not register my controller function yet in the routes file. So go to the routes file and provide that function as the second argument of the refresh token endpoint, like this. Make sure to import this refresh token controller from the auth.controller, save it. And now I'm going to copy this refresh token and go to the new tab, and here I will use the post method, and here use http://localhost, and here I will use login/refresh token. Okay, for now I will not provide any data in the body, just to verify if my validation is working correctly. Yes, Zod error is coming, that is complaining about the missing fields in the body. So let's add that. Go to the select the JSON type, and here I will add refresh token. Actually, it should be in this way, because you can see this should be the spelling for this property, and for now we'll pass any incorrect token. Okay, now send it. You can see it is complaining that this is invalid token. There is another thing that I want to do or add in this. So we should not hit the backend first. first we need to use the JWT to verify if the token refresh token is valid, and if it is valid JWT token, and we need to check if it is expired or not. For that, I will create a constant is token valid would be the name of this constant, and we will call the verify token function, and I will pass it the refresh token. Okay, now here I will check if token is not valid, then we will terminate the process immediately, and I'm again saying that token is not valid or expired. So there might be one of these reasons. Maybe the token is corrupted, or maybe it is expired. There can be one of those reasons. Okay, now I will get this specific error because this is not a valid JWT token. Send it, and you can see we are stopped immediately here. We did not even send any single request to the database. So in this way, we are saving unnecessary requests to our MySQL database. And now let's provide it a valid refresh token and send it. Okay, now this time I got an object along with two properties, access token and refresh token. That's great. That means these are the new tokens that we want to use. So this is access token. Okay, let's see what else is left. Now finally logout endpoint is left. Okay, we have to implement that. So go to the auth controller. Let's define a constant. Export it first. Export constant, and logout controller will contain async function with the request and response parameters. And to log out, we basically need the refresh token from the body instead of the access token. So I will create a constant. Schema is equal to z.object, and I will pass it an object. That object will expect refresh token of type string, and now I will parse it safely by using the request.body, and then we will check if validation is failed, then terminate the process by using the return statement and use the 400 status in the response with this error object with all of the reasons that are failing this validation. And now I am extracting the refresh token. Now I will check if token is valid or not, because someone may send a fake token or compromised token. So we want to see if it is the genuine token that was generated by us, and if it is not expired, then it's okay. Otherwise, if it is not a valid token, then I will terminate the process. I will not let them do anything before this line, and we will return the status 400 to the response and with the message invalid token or expired. Okay, great. Once everything is fine, we will double check from the database. If this token is available in database, then we are dead sure that this is a valid token. So because maybe that token was deleted already from the database. So db refresh token, get token, we passed it the refresh token. It will get the token from the database by using the function from the token service, and we saved in the db refresh token constant. Now we will check if this db refresh token was not found in database, or if it is found but it is not of type, if its type is not equal to refresh, then that's mean it is not the token that we were looking for. So we will immediately terminate the process and with the message and status 400. Okay, but if everything is fine, now it's time to delete all of the tokens. First I will get the user ID from the refresh token that I got from the database. This is the model token, and now I will call the function delete all tokens of this user ID. So it will use the service function in the token service and run this condition, and we'll delete all of the tokens from the database. And once that is done, we will simply send a 200 status to the front end that logged out successfully. Okay, that's all about the logout. Now let's test it. Let me duplicate this, and in the body I have included the actually I have to include the latest refresh token, that is this one. So let's fix it. Okay, send it. I have the invalid token error, so let's get it from the table plus reload the token table, and this is the refresh token. Let me get it from there, and now go to the tab where we want to log out and put it here like this. But we have to register the logout controller in the logout endpoint. So copy this controller and let's pass it as the second argument. Make sure to import this controller from the auth controller. Save it, And now go back to the table plus and hit that send button. And you can see a success status 200 with the message logged out. And if you reload the page database table, you will see that there is no token there anymore. And now I think everything is done. Now we can proceed to protect all of our endpoints. Okay, we already have made our middleware in the auth util. Here you can see we have this middleware, Authenticate JWT. Okay, we will use that to protect all of our routes that we don't want to allow user to access without the token. Okay, now let's go to every route one by one and protect them. So go to the category.routes. Here we don't need to protect the get endpoint, but we will have to protect all of the routes that are mutating our backend. So post is creating a resource and put is updating and delete is deleting. So we have to provide the middleware between middleware here. So let's copy this function name or middleware name that we want to use, copy it, and now paste it here. Okay, and let me import this. So make sure to import the authenticate JWT from the auth.util. Now whenever somebody is trying to create a category, we will require the token from them in the header. Otherwise we will not let them to create that category. Okay, and for now I will just put that middleware in the get method as well, just to make sure if the middleware is working correctly. Okay, so go to the table plus and we will use the get method on the API/categories, and let's hit the send button without the token. Okay, now it is saying that access is denied, and let's see from where this message is coming. This is coming from authenticate JWT. Here we are sending this message from here, access denied. Here you can say that access denied, and you can tell them that token is not provided. Save it. Now if you try that again, you will wait for a time so that the server is restarted and hit that send button again. Now you will get the token is not provided message as well. Now let's provide this token, but I'm sure this has been expired or deleted, so it will not work. You can see we are getting invalid token message. That's mean it's tried to verify, but it has been expired. The time period was expired because it was created a long time ago. So even if it was not expired, now that we have logged out, so all of the tokens are removed from our database. So that's mean it will get stuck here. It will still not work. Okay, so now to make it work, we have to sign in again. So go to the sign in tab here, login tab, and we will try to log in again. And this time we got new token. So let's use this token, access token, and go back to that endpoint where we were trying to get the categories. So here I will remove the old token and paste the new token, send it. And this time I did not get any error and we got the 200 status. That's mean everything was correct, everything was fine. It tried to give us the categories, but for now there are no categories. So that's why we got the empty array. Okay, now go back to the category.routes and remove this authenticate JWT from the get method, because we don't want to make the public get methods private. We want to keep them publicly available, so it's fine. Now let's paste this middleware in all of these other endpoints. Okay, now it's time to create a category. So I will just use the post method here and I will keep using this. Actually, let's just disable this authorization header and go to the body. I will provide some data to create the category, choose the JSON object, and within that I will provide the name of the category and XYZ. Hit the send button. I got the error, access denied, token is not provided. Now go to the authorization headers, select the enable the authorization header, send it. This time it was correct, token was correct, and the category was inserted. Now if you go back to the get method and try to send button, and then you will get the array of all of the categories. This time it did not stop us. Now we need to update our category. Okay, go to the put method and let's try to update our category, and it will definitely allow us to update it. Let me add hello-world and I will provide the ID as well, because ID is required. Otherwise definitely it will stop us with the error message like this, it will give me the ZOD error that ID was missing. So let's pass it. ID is equal to 1. Okay, now let's send it. Okay, it was updated. The slug was also updated. Now we need to test if delete is working perfectly. Send the request, and we got the deleted object back. That's mean it was deleted. Now if you try the get method, you will notice that the array is empty now. All right, so we have tested that our authenticate JWT middleware is working perfectly fine. So we can now go at high speed and keep adding this middleware to all of the routes that we want to protect. Okay, and we don't need to test every time because we know that it is working pretty well. So copy this and go to the comment route. So all of these 3 routes need the protection. So I will paste that code here and here and here. Now I need to import the missing function authenticate JWT, save it, go to the post.routes, and we need to protect these routes as well. In the same way, make sure to add the missing function. All right, go to the tag.routes, and here I will do the same thing, add the middleware in all of these 3 routes and import the missing function from the auth.util file. And I think everything is done. We have protected all of the secure routes. All right, I think that's all I wanted to cover in this lecture, and I hope that you will find this lecture very useful and very knowledgeable and very practical. So thank you for staying with me, and I will see you in the next lectures. Until next time, goodbye.